My name is Rosie De Silva, and my occupation in the QP 4400 office as receptionist. But basically I'm the traffic cop who cares. I work a triage unit, understanding what people are calling about and making sure they're connecting with the right people. I said to me, you know, Rosie, you look like somebody who got yourself into a lot of trouble when you were in school. And I think he was expecting me to say, well, I was caught smoking or, drinking too much or whatever. And I said, yes, actually I did. You want to know why? And he said, sure. And I think I knocked his socks off because I said to him, well, first of all, I would always give up my seats in the bus for blacks because blacks were only allowed to travel in the back of the bus, and that would get me into trouble, get me reported. And in terms of growing up in South Africa during apartheid, a lot of facilities were only reserved for whites. So for instance, your bus shelters and your bus benches, the benches inside the shelters were for whites only, no blacks could sit in them. And one day there was a black African woman who was pregnant with a baby on her back and standing, and I was sitting, and I was a little young teenager and she was a mother of 20 years old, 30 years old, something like that. So I asked her if she wanted my seat. I thought it was perfectly logical. And the woman next to me reported me to my principal. And I got into a lot of trouble. I was threatened with expulsion, right? Well, South Africa's system was based on, during apartheid, was based on a separate curriculum for every racial group. So you had one for whites, one for Indians, a curriculum for blacks, and one for the colored community. If you want to look at that sort of situation here and look at what is similar, you look at the schools that are in the wealthy areas of the city, right? And then you look at, in terms of what kind of fundraising, for example, they engage in, and how much money they actually raise when they engage in the fundraising. Then you go to a school that, say, like Regent Park, Nelson Mandela Regent Park School, and you look at the fundraising a school like that engages in and how much money they manage to raise. And then you see the economic inequities of the two systems, the two schools. I grew up in a very privileged atmosphere, a very privileged society. I received a privileged education simply because of the color of my skin. So when I graduated from high school, I made a resolve that wherever I was in the world, that I would give back to society what I got out of it simply because I was white. In about 2012, Toronto Community Housing Corporation, TCHC as it's known, announced to the world that they were going to be selling over 900 of the single dwelling homes that they possessed in order to raise money for capital repairs. I happened to be actually in one of them, and I said that wasn't right, and so joined with a bunch of other people and formed a coalition of people, including tenants, some of whom had never been politically engaged before, ever. And we fought a very hard and long campaign with a lot of odds against us, and won the day and were able to save over 90% of the homes. My words of wisdom to pass on to the younger generation would be to engage wherever you are. If you're in a school, elementary school, you engage in the social activities of the school system. If you're in high school, look at whether there's an anti-racist group, look at whether there's an equity council, look at whether there's a school council, and begin where you are. And I live by the motto that Nelson Mandela said when the Freedom Charter was signed in 1954, and that is that South Africa belongs belongs to all those who live in it. So you living in Canada, Canada belongs to you just as much as the person next door.